The tires crunched over the gravel as Leela Hart's hands shook on the steering wheel. Every mile she drove, every turn into the dark forest roads of Silverpine, was a mile further from the nightmare she'd been running from. Her ex. The man who had claimed to love her but had only brought fear, control, and broken promises. She had escaped him once, she had to escape him again. The forest around her seemed alive, shadows stretching like fingers beneath the silver glow of the moon. Legends whispered of packs that roamed these woods, wolves who walked like men, alphas with power that could command life or death. Leela didn't care about legends, she just wanted safety, a place to vanish, a place to breathe without looking over her shoulder. When she arrived at the secluded cabin she'd rented, the world felt almost serene, almost normal. But as she unpacked, a low, guttural growl drifted through the night air, vibrating through the trees and into her chest. She froze. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't an animal. It was a presence, magnetic, dangerous, alive. Amber eyes appeared from the shadows of the tree line, piercing into her very soul. The Alpha King of the Silverpine Pack lived next door, and he had just found her. The forest was alive with the soft hum of nocturnal creatures, shadows stretching long under the pale moonlight. Leela Hart's hands trembled as she gripped the steering wheel, her knuckles white, though no one could see her in the dark. She had driven for hours to escape the past, the relentless pursuit of her ex, a man who had promised love but delivered terror. Every mile felt like a lifetime, yet she couldn't stop. Safety was just a whispered hope. The small town of Ravenwood had always been known for its mysterious legends, of wolves that walked like men and of packs ruled by alphas whose eyes burned with a dangerous authority. Leela didn't care. She just needed a place to disappear, to breathe without fear. When she found an ad for a secluded cabin within the Silverpine Pack territory, she had jumped at the chance, unaware of the life, or the danger, that waited next door. Pulling into the gravel driveway, the cabin looked serene, almost too peaceful. The scent of pine and damp earth filled the air. Leela exhaled shakily, unlocking the door and stepping inside. The interior was rustic but inviting, with a fireplace ready for winter's chill. For the first time in months, she allowed herself a small, tentative smile. Maybe this could work. Maybe she could finally be free. But freedom came with a price in Ravenwood. The first night, Leela couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old cabin, every whisper of wind against the windows, made her heart hammer in her chest. She kept the lights on, watching shadows twist across the walls. That's when she heard it, a low, guttural growl that didn't belong to any animal she knew. Her breath caught. She was alone, wasn't she? Then she realized, the sound wasn't coming from outside, it was next door. Her pulse raced as the growl softened into a voice, rich and commanding. "She's new." Leela froze. The words weren't spoken aloud, yet they echoed in her mind as if carried by the wind itself. She stumbled back from the window, her heart thrumming like a wild drum. Whoever, or whatever, was next door, they were powerful. Dangerous. Alpha-level dangerous, if the stories were true. By morning, sunlight brought a false sense of safety. Birds chirped cheerfully. The forest seemed almost ordinary, and yet the memory of that voice haunted her. When she stepped outside to stretch her legs, she noticed movement next door. A figure appeared at the edge of the trees, a man impossibly tall, with broad shoulders and hair the color of midnight. His eyes, a striking amber, seemed to pierce through her very soul. Leela's stomach fluttered with an emotion she hadn't felt in months, fear mingled with curiosity. "New neighbor," he said, his voice low measured, yet carrying an authority that made the air itself vibrate. "I saw you move in." Leela's lips parted, words failing her. There was something magnetic about him, something primal. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to respond. "Hi, I'm Leela. I just moved here." He inclined his head, a slow, deliberate gesture that sent shivers down her spine. "I'm Kale, Alpha of this pack. Welcome to Silverpine." Her eyes widened. The Alpha, the leader, and somehow he was next door. Cal's gaze lingered on her, assessing, measuring, as if he could see her every fear, every secret, every reason she had come here. Leela felt a strange pull, a tension that made her heart race. Something told her that this man would either protect her or destroy her, and she had no idea which one he would choose. As days passed, Leela tried to settle into her new life. The pack members were wary but polite, casting curious glances her way. She kept to herself, staying out of the pack's complex politics, focusing on her job in the nearby town and on the simple act of surviving another day without being found by her ex. But Cale was never far, whether in the forest hunting, patrolling the territory, or simply watching from the edge of his property. She felt his presence like a heartbeat in the shadows. One evening, while she was chopping wood behind her cabin, Cale stepped out of the trees without warning, silent as a predator. "You shouldn't be alone," he said, voice low, almost a growl. "I can take care of myself," Leela said, forcing a shaky laugh, gripping the axe tightly. He tilted his head, amber eyes glinting. "Can you? Or are you hiding from something or someone?" Leela's hands tightened around the axe. How did he know? Her heart pounded. She wanted to flee, to hide again, but something in Cale's presence made her feel exposed, alive, and uncomfortably drawn toward him. Cale stepped closer, the air around him charged with power. "Whatever your past is," he murmured, "this territory is mine. You will be safe here as long as you follow my rules." And though Leela had no idea what she had just agreed to, she knew one thing with terrifying certainty: her life had just become far more dangerous and far more thrilling than she could have ever imagined. The sun had barely touched the horizon when Leela heard it again, the low, commanding growl that had haunted her since the first night. Only this time it wasn't distant. It vibrated through the ground, through her chest, until she felt it in her bones. She froze, instinctively glancing toward Cal's property. He was standing at the edge of the tree line, arms crossed, watching her. His expression was unreadable, but the intensity in his amber eyes made her stomach tighten. "You shouldn't wander the woods alone," he said without moving an inch, his voice carrying effortlessly across the clearing. Leela started, then stopped. Words failed her again. She felt like a mouse caught in a lion's gaze. I just needed air." Kyle's lips quirked slightly, almost a smirk, though it didn't reach his eyes. "You're hiding something," he said simply. "I can smell it. Fear, sorrow, and your scent. There's more to it than running from the past, isn't there?" Leela's heart skipped. He could smell her fear. Her pulse raced, heat rising to her cheeks. She wanted to flee, to retreat into the safety of her cabin, but some invisible tether held her in place. "I am not telling strangers about my life," she said finally, her voice firmer than she felt. Cale tilted his head, amber eyes narrowing slightly, as if weighing her words against the truth he already knew. "I'm not a stranger," he murmured, "and I'm not like anyone you've ever known. In Silverpine, everyone answers to me, including you, if you want to remain safe." Her stomach twisted. The thought of being under his control, even for safety, sent shivers of fear and something else, something thrilling, through her body. Leela realized, with a sinking clarity, that she wasn't just drawn to Kyle. She was trapped in the gravitational pull of his presence. That night, sleep eluded her. Every shadow seemed to move, every rustle in the trees a whisper of his presence. She knew he was near, always near, and the thought both frightened and electrified her. The first encounter. The next morning, Leela's day began with the usual routine: coffee, checking her small home for intrusions, trying to convince herself that she had finally escaped her ex. She had no idea how wrong she was. Chiel appeared without warning, standing at her door like a shadow made real. His eyes scanned her with an intensity that made her breath hitch. "You can't hide from the world," he said softly, almost kindly, though his voice still carried the threat of a growl. "And you certainly can't hide from me." Leela stiffened. "I'm not hiding from you. You are," he said flatly. "Everyone has a scent, a story, and yours is screaming. Someone hurt you. Someone dangerous is looking for you." Fear and anger mingled in her chest. She wanted to deny it, wanted to push him away, but she couldn't. His presence was magnetic, pulling at something deep within her. Something primal. "Why do you care?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kyle's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly, before sharpening again. "Because it's my territory. Because whoever dares touch you will answer to me." The word sent a thrill and a shiver through her. For the first time since fleeing her ex, Leela felt the possibility of protection, of safety that wasn't fragile or fleeting. Yet there was a price for that safety. She could feel it in the way Cale watched her, in the way his eyes lingered on her movements, in the subtle growl that vibrated low in his throat when she dared to smile. And she realized, with a mixture of fear and longing, that she might already be falling for the very man who could control her life, or shatter it completely. A threat emerges. As the days passed, Leela began to notice strange signs around her cabin, claw marks etched into trees nearby, footprints too large to be human, and the faint scent of her ex lingering in the wind. He had found her. Her heart pounded as she ran to Cale, needing his protection, needing him to act. When she arrived at the edge of his property, he was waiting, silent, massive, eyes glowing amber even in the dim light of dusk. "He's here," she whispered, voice trembling. Cal's jaw tightened. "I know, and he won't touch you, not while I'm here." With a speed that defied human limits, he disappeared into the forest, leaving only a ripple in the leaves. Minutes later, a confrontation erupted somewhere deep in the trees, the sounds of snarling and growling echoing through the woods. Leela's heart lurched. The Alpha King of Silverpine was fighting for her. When he returned, his presence was magnetic, intoxicating, terrifying. He didn't speak at first, just studied her, amber eyes searing into hers. Leela felt both safe and exposed, as if nothing could hurt her, yet everything could. "You'll stay with me tonight?" he said finally, voice low and commanding. "Anywhere else is not safe." And though she wanted to resist, to assert her independence, something inside her quivered at the thought of being near him, protected by the very man whose presence made her pulse race. Shadows, secrets, and forbidden desire. The moon hung high over Silverpine, a pale sentinel in the night sky. Its silver light filtered through the dense canopy, casting dancing shadows across the forest floor. Leela couldn't sleep again. Every creak, every whisper of the wind made her jump. Her ex was out there somewhere, and Cale had warned her not to venture into the forest alone. But the pull of the wild, of the unknown, was irresistible. She slipped quietly from her cabin, boots crunching softly over frost-kissed leaves. The forest seemed alive tonight, vibrant and intoxicating, as if the trees themselves were aware of her presence. She stopped when she sensed him before she saw him, the familiar, magnetic presence that always made her pulse accelerate. Kyle, the Alpha King. He stepped from the shadows like a phantom, silent, powerful, his amber eyes glowing under the moonlight. Leela's breath hitched. Every instinct screamed both danger and desire. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, commanding, carrying the weight of a growl beneath the words. I couldn't sleep," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "I needed air." Kyle's gaze softened slightly, though his intensity never wavered. "Silverpine is not safe for someone like you," he murmured, stepping closer, each movement deliberate, predatory. "Not with your past chasing you." Leela swallowed hard. She wanted to step back, but her body betrayed her. Every nerve was alive, every thought consumed by him. "And you?" she asked, voice trembling. "Are you safe here?" Kyle's lips curved into a slow, dangerous smile. "I am the danger, Leela, and I am the protector. You will learn to fear me or desire me." The words hung in the air like a spark over dry kindling. Leela's heart raced uncontrollably. She didn't know if she was afraid or thrilled, or both. A close encounter. Before she could respond, Cale moved closer, the forest around them seeming to vanish. The scent of him, rich, primal, commanding, filled her senses. Leela's knees threatened to buckle. "He shouldn't be alone," he said again, his voice now a low growl that vibrated deep in her chest. "I can take care of myself," she said, though her voice wavered. Kyle's amber eyes flicked to hers, dark and smoldering. "Can you?" he whispered. "Or are you hiding from someone or something?" Her lips parted. He was too close now, the heat from his body making her pulse erratic. She could feel the primal power radiating from him, the strength, the dominance, the raw, intoxicating presence of a man who could take her, or destroy her, with a single thought. Leela tried to step back, but Cale's hand caught hers, strong and sure. His touch was electric, sending shivers through her body. "You're mine to protect," he said softly, almost tenderly, yet the growl beneath the words was undeniable. "Do not forget it." Her breath hitched. You will obey me," he interrupted, amber eyes locking on hers, deep and commanding. "Because if you do not, you will be vulnerable to the darkness chasing you, The forest seemed to hold its breath as Leela met his gaze. She knew he was dangerous, yet she felt drawn to him in a way that was irresistible, forbidden, intoxicating. Secrets unveiled. The following days brought a flurry of strange events. Leela discovered subtle signs around her cabin. Footprints too large for a human, scents she couldn't place, and a chilling realization that someone was watching her. Her ex was close. Cale appeared more frequently now, his presence both protective and possessive. One evening, as she was checking the perimeter of her cabin, he appeared silently behind her. "You can't hide from your past," he murmured, voice low, almost intimate. "And you cannot hide from me either. I know your scent. I know your fear. I know your heart." Lila's chest tightened. "Why do you care so much?" Kyle's gaze softened just enough to make her shiver. "Because I don't let anything or anyone harm those under my protection. Especially you." The words were dangerous. The sincerity, the intensity, the unspoken promise, it pulled at her in ways she couldn't resist. Yet fear remained, clawing at the edges of her desire. Her ex was still out there. Danger lurked in every shadow. And Cal was more than just dangerous. He was enthralling. That night, as the full moon bathed Silver Pine in silver light, Leela realized she was no longer running. She was being drawn into something primal, dangerous, and intoxicating, into the orbit of the Alpha King who had vowed to protect her, possess her, and ignite a fire she couldn't extinguish, under the moonlight. The Silver Pine forest was bathed in silver light, every tree casting long, skeletal shadows. The air smelled of pine, damp earth, and something else, something primal that made Leela's pulse race. She couldn't deny it any longer. Kyle's presence had consumed her thoughts. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig, made her heart beat faster. That night, Kale appeared at her cabin again. He didn't knock. He didn't announce himself. He simply stepped out of the shadows like a predator emerging from darkness, eyes glowing amber in the moonlight. "You should not wander alone," he said, voice low and dangerous, carrying that girl she had come to recognize as both a warning and a promise. Leela started, but the words died on her lips. She wanted to protest, to assert herself, but the moment she met his gaze, every thought scattered. Kyle stepped closer, the heat from his body warming the cool night air between them. She could feel the strength in his arms, the power in his presence, the magnetic pull that seemed impossible to resist. "You're trembling," he murmured, amber eyes flickering with something she couldn't name. "Desire, possession? Both?" "I am not afraid," she said, trying to steady her voice. But her chest heaved and her heart betrayed her. Cal's hand lifted slowly, brushing a strand of hair from her face, his fingers grazing her cheek. The touch was electric. Her knees weakened. "You are," he whispered, leaning just slightly closer. "Afraid and yet drawn to me." Her lips parted instinctively. The forest around them seemed to disappear. All that existed was him. The Alpha King, the man who could dominate her world, protect her, destroy her, and ignite a fire she had never known. "You need to understand," he said, voice dropping even lower, almost a growl now. "I am your protector, Leela, but I am also your desire, and desire can be dangerous." Before she could respond, Cal closed the distance, just barely. The proximity sent a jolt through her body. Her pulse raced, her breath caught. The forest echoed with the low, primal growl emanating from him, an unspoken warning and a promise all at once. The pack awakens. The next day, Cale decided it was time for Leela to meet the pack fully. They arrived at the heart of Silver Pine, a clearing surrounded by towering pines, where pack members moved with silent grace, eyes sharp, muscles coiled like springs. Leela felt every gaze upon her, measuring her, assessing her place among them. Cal's presence beside her was magnetic and intimidating. He didn't introduce her immediately. Instead, he let the pack sense her, letting the subtle power dynamics play out. Leela's pulse raced. She felt exposed, vulnerable, and thrillingly alive. Finally, Cale spoke. "This is Lila," he said, amber eyes sweeping the group. "She is under my protection. She stays with us now. Anyone who threatens her answers to me." A ripple of acknowledgement passed through the pack. Leela felt the weight of Cale's authority. Even without words, he had made it clear she was his, in the eyes of the entire Silver Pine territory. Her heart pounded, not just from fear, but from the electric thrill of being claimed, of being desired, of standing beside the most powerful alpha she had ever encountered. The first night alone. That night, Cale returned her to her cabin. The forest was quiet yet heavy with anticipation, as if even nature held its breath. "I will stay with you tonight," Cale said, his voice low, dark, and commanding. "It is not safe for you to be alone." Lila's heart hammered. She wanted to argue to maintain independence. But the fear of her ex, combined with the magnetic pull of Cale, left her silent. Inside the cabin, the air seemed to crackle with tension. Cale stood near the doorway, amber eyes fixed on her. "Do not move too far from me," he said. "Do not test the shadows." Lila nodded, though every nerve in her body was alive with the electricity between them. Cale's presence was overwhelming, intoxicating. He didn't touch her yet, but just standing close, letting her sense his strength, his heat, his control, was enough to set her heart racing. Hours passed in tense silence. Every rustle outside made Lila shiver. Every glance from Cale was both a warning and a temptation. Her body and mind were caught in a storm: desire, fear, longing, and the undeniable pull of the Alpha King who had vowed to protect her. Finally, Cale stepped closer. The space between them was charged, electric. "You belong to me," he murmured, voice low and rumbling. "Even if you do not yet know it." Lila's breath hitched. She couldn't respond. She didn't know whether she wanted to resist or surrender. Under the full moon, in the heart of Silver Pine, a bond was forming, primal, dangerous, and irresistible. Lila's new life had begun, and she had no idea how far it would take her, or how deep the pull of the Alpha King would go. The danger escalates, her ex surfaces, and the tension between Lila and Cale ignites into an undeniable, cinematic moment of intimacy. The first threat and the fire between them. The night air was thick with mist, curling around the Silverpine forest like a ghostly veil. Lila couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every shadow seemed to twitch. Every rustle of leaves made her heart hammer. She had just settled into her cabin when a chilling realization froze her blood. Her ex was here. He had found her. The same man who had haunted her life for months was stalking her again, crossing into Silverpine, into Kyle's territory. Panic clawed at her chest. She wanted to flee, to hide, but she remembered Cale's warning: he was everywhere, always. And somehow that knowledge brought both relief and fear. The confrontation. Before she could formulate a plan, the door to her cabin burst open. Her ex stepped inside, eyes dark, lips twisted with malice. "I told you, Lila," he sneered. "You can't run forever." Lila's heart froze, her voice trembled. "Stay away from me." A growl rolled through the air, low, guttural, and terrifying. Cale stepped from the shadows like a predator descending from the trees, his figure enormous, powerful, and impossibly fast. His amber eyes blazed with rage. "You touch her, and you die," Cale said, voice rumbling like a storm vibrating through the walls and the forest beyond. The ex scoffed, clearly unafraid or foolish. That was his mistake. Kyle's form blurred as he moved, every motion fluid, lethal and terrifying. He cornered the intruder with a speed that left Lila breathless, every muscle coiled and ready to strike. With one sharp growl, Cale pinned him to the ground, his strength impossible to resist. Lila's pulse raced, not just from fear, but from the raw power radiating from Kyle. He was danger and protection embodied, a force she had never imagined. "You belong here, under my protection," Cale said, his voice low, intimate, yet carrying a lethal warning. "And I will not let anyone harm you." Her ex struggled, snarling, but Cal's amber eyes met Lila's, and she felt the ownership, the dominance, the unspoken promise that he would never let harm come to her. The first night together. After the threat was gone, vanquished as easily as it had appeared, Cale turned to Lila. The forest was silent again, the moonlight painting them in silver and shadow. "You shouldn't be afraid," Cale murmured, his hand brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. The touch sent shivers through her body. "Not here. Not with me." Lila's lips trembled. I can't stop thinking about you," she whispered, voice barely audible. "Even when I'm scared." Cale's amber eyes darkened with something primal: desire, possession, and an irresistible pull. "Good," he murmured. "Because you shouldn't. You belong to me, and I won't let anyone take that away." Before she could respond, he closed the distance. His hands framed her face, powerful yet tender, and their lips met in a kiss that stole her breath. It was fierce, urgent, demanding an explosion of emotion and desire. Her hands instinctively went to his chest, feeling the strength, the heat, the unrelenting power beneath his skin. He deepened the kiss, and for the first time since fleeing her ex, Leela felt safe, desired, and alive. The forest around them disappeared. There was no past, no danger, no fear, only the raw, consuming connection between her and the Alpha King. Aftermath. When they finally parted, both breathing heavily, Cal's forehead rested against hers. "You are mine," he whispered, amber eyes glowing in the moonlight. "And I will protect you. Always." Leela trembled, heart racing, body still aflame from the intensity of their connection. I don't know how to stop feeling this," she admitted, voice soft, vulnerable. Cal's lips curved into a slow, possessive smile. "You won't, and you don't need to. Let it happen. Let yourself feel." Under the full moon in Silver Pine, Leela realized that her life had irrevocably changed. She was no longer running. She was part of a pack, part of a world she had never imagined, and entwined with a man who was both danger and salvation. And as Cal's arms wrapped around her, holding her close against the chill of the night, she knew one undeniable truth: she was exactly where she was meant to be, by the side of the Alpha King who had claimed her heart, her soul, and her destiny. The stakes rise, the pack's dynamics unfold. Kyle's protective instincts become more intense, and Leela's ex makes a dangerous move. The pack, the threat, and the heat of desire. The first rays of dawn filtered through the silver pine trees, casting golden streaks over the frost-dusted forest floor. Leela awoke wrapped in Cal's arms, his warmth a shield against the lingering chill. She could feel the steady beat of his heart beneath her fingers, strong, commanding, alive. Cal stirred, amber eyes opening slowly, locking onto hers. "Did you sleep?" he asked, voice low, rumbling, still laced with a dangerous undertone. "I did," Leela murmured, though sleep had been fitful. Her dreams were haunted by shadows of her past, and the thrilling, terrifying presence of Cal. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "Good," he said softly. "You need strength, more than you know." Introduction to the pack. Later that morning, Cal took Leela deeper into Silver Pine, introducing her to the pack. They gathered in a clearing where the Alpha's presence was undeniable. Wolves and men alike moved with grace and silent power, eyes assessing her as if trying to read her soul. "This is Leela," Cal announced, amber eyes sweeping the group. "She is under my protection. Anyone who threatens her answers to me. Treat her with respect or face consequences." The pack members inclined their heads in acknowledgement, their expressions neutral yet sharp. Leela felt the weight of Cal's dominance settle over her, a strange mixture of safety and intimidation. Every glance from him reminded her she was his, and everyone knew it. One pack member, a tall, broad-shouldered man with piercing green eyes, stepped forward. "We've heard of her," he said, voice steady. "She's different. But if the Alpha commands, we obey." Cal's gaze flicked to Leela, almost protective, almost possessive. "Different is good," he said softly, only she could hear. "It means you are exactly what is needed here." Leela's cheeks flushed. The pack's scrutiny was intimidating, but Cal's subtle encouragement made her feel alive in a way she hadn't in months. The X strikes again. Just as Leela began to feel a tentative sense of belonging, danger struck. A shadow in the forest, a rustle too deliberate. Her ex had returned, bolder this time, daring to challenge Cal's territory. She felt it before she saw it, the sudden, sharp scent of him on the wind. Fear gripped her chest. Cal's hand was on hers in an instant, pulling her behind him. His amber eyes blazed with fury. "You stay behind me," he commanded, every muscle coiled like a predator. "Do not move." The X appeared at the edge of the clearing, smug, confident, until he met Cal's gaze. The Alpha growled, a sound that shook the very trees around them. Leela's heart pounded, both from fear and the intense magnetic presence of Cal standing between her and danger. In seconds, Cal moved like a shadow, swift, precise, and utterly terrifying. Leela watched, breathless, as he cornered the intruder with a combination of power and control that left no room for escape. "You will leave?" Cal growled, voice vibrating with lethal authority. "And you will never come near her again." The X's defiance crumbled under Cal's gaze. In an instant, he retreated, leaving the forest trembling from Cal's raw power. The aftermath desire ignites. When the threat was gone, Kyle turned to Leela. The forest was silent, bathed in golden morning light, but the tension between them had not dissipated. "You are mine," Kale said, voice low and intimate, "and I will ensure no one threatens you. Ever." Leela's lips trembled. I don't know how to handle this," she whispered. Her chest still heaved from fear and something else, something hotter, rawer, impossible to ignore. Cal stepped closer, hands framing her face with possessive care. "You don't have to handle it alone," he murmured. "I am here, always. And you feel it too, don't you?" Her pulse raced. "Yes," she admitted, breath hitching. "I can't stop feeling it." The pull between them became undeniable. Their lips met in a kiss charged with fire, desperation, and unspoken promises. It was a collision of fear and desire, danger and trust, leaving Leela breathless and trembling in his arms. Kyle's hands roamed her back, strong, possessive, anchoring her to him. "You belong to me," he whispered into her hair. "And I will not let anyone, or anything, take you from me." Under the watchful trees of silver pine, with the forest silent and their hearts racing, Leela realized that her life had irrevocably changed. Danger, desire, and the intoxicating power of the Alpha King had claimed her completely.